Good morning. My name is David Haas. My pronouns are he and him. And I'll add to Susie's questions. Who here has sung in the choir? Yes. Because there are no auditions required. Anybody who can sing a note can sing in the choir. So I've been asked to talk about transformation, my transformation. So I came to this church, believe it or not, 18 years ago. I had no intention of coming to this church. I have no spiritual, religious background to speak of, and it was a marriage of convenience. As many of you know, my son was in the Boy Scouts. He needed a letter from a minister to become an Eagle Scout, so hence, started coming to the UU Church about 18 years ago. And shortly thereafter, I joined the choir. Jason Shelton was the choir director at that time. And these 18 years, I'm going to divide into three different 6-year phases. And I'm now entering the fourth phase, which I'm really looking forward to figuring out what this fourth phase is. And I never anticipated this transformation. And I should also say my story is unique to me, but the aspects of it are very generalizable. If you have the time, if you have something to give, if you have a need, if you have something to receive, this transformation can happen, or a transformation can happen to anybody. So after about those first 6 years, I would come and sing and meet people, and it was very nice. I love singing. And over time, I started trying to understand what UU was. And it seems like a very simple concept, but it literally took me years and years and years. And I remember asking Jason, and Jason trying to explain to me, and I didn't get it. I read about the principles, and I still didn't get it, because I assumed that in any church there had to be some dogma, there had to be some kind of thing you're trying to achieve, some higher nirvana or something. And this was hidden somewhere in UU. And that was like my first 6 years, singing, meeting people, enjoying that. The next 6 years, after about 6, I really started to get it. I understood it. And for me, it all came back to the principles. The 7 at that time, now 8 principles. So when somebody would ask me, and this is why I understood why it was so hard for me to get, when people would say, you go to that church, don't you? Like my brother-in-law would ask me, and usually it was somebody from a more Christian background, and they say, what's that church about? And I would try to explain it to them, and I would give one principle as an example, and I would say, if you kind of can align with these things and support these things, that's all there is to this church. I know there's a lot more, but and they don't get it. I mean, they say, there must be something more, but how can you do that? How can you not believe in something? How can, all these things. So I understand why it took so long. So my next 6 years, that second 6 years, were really kind of marinating and internalizing somewhat and having a better sense, but still enjoying the church and singing and meeting more people. And I am very much an introvert. So when I stand in social hour, hopefully I see somebody I know and I'll go talk to them. But that was my next 6 years. So my third 6 years, up until now, I look back through my computer. That's how I gauge things. I do a search and say, when did this happen? And 6 years ago, I started writing music. And the reason I started writing music was we would do 2 services at that time. So we do the first service, I'd be very engaged. We had the social hour, I'd be very engaged. And then we do the second service, which I had already listened to the first time. So I would be sitting there, and I would say, So I would start looking through the book about reading up on the principles and thinking about it. And at some point, I started thinking about writing a song related to the first principle. So I did that. And Jay Tiefenbrunn was our choir director at that time, and she was incredibly helpful, kind of mentoring me and helping me think about how to write choral music. And also with the text, some of the text I had was somewhat triggering, and some of it was not inclusive, and really helping through all that. So I wrote my first song in 2018. I wrote the second song a few months after that. And I'm very obsessive compulsive, so once you do 1 or 2 and there's 7 principles, you have to do all 7, and then you have to do 8 now. So I did all that. And as I did it, as I got toward the end, I said, why am I doing this? And at that point, my reason was, as they become more formalized, I want to get these out in the world, because I had such a hard time understanding what Unitarian Universalism is. Maybe these could help be an introduction to people coming into the church, not necessarily this church, but any place around the country that could use this music for that. So I've done, and I'll mention this is a shameless, it's not a plug, but this is a shameless communication. I have a website that goes into much more depth about my music. I put some of these cards out there to the left of to the coat rack. There's a web page, so if you want to know more about it and why and all that, it's all there. So the next phase. So I haven't written a new song for a while, and I've been thinking now, where does this go? And I'm so grateful to Gail Spar for asking me to talk about this, because it forced me to write down kind of what this music is about, and I'll just say a few words about this. So one of the songs that I wrote is called, I connected with each of the principles. The one that was kind of not really connected was the fourth one about, I think it's a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. This is the fourth principle. And I wrote a song about that, and I had lyrics, and they fit, but I didn't really get it. And the lyrics of the song that repeat several times are, your dreams, are they the same as mine? Or is this life just a slow goodbye? Deep within each person, there lies amazing mystery. Let that mystery wash over me. And that repeats several times in the song. And I thought, I loved it, but I didn't know why I loved it. And then I've been reading a book by David Brooks called How to Know a Person. And I'm not through it yet, but I was at a meeting in Denver, and I was sitting there reading it, and I got to this paragraph at the end of a chapter, and David Brooks said, and I strongly recommend the book. He said, each person is a mystery, and when we are surrounded by mysteries, as the saying goes, it's best to live life in the form of a question. And my mind went, it's like, that's what that song means. So I started looking and for David Brooks's email, but it wasn't in the book. So it came back to me that the music I've been writing, it's not just about having people be introduced to Unitarian Universalism. Last night I wrote down what the music is. And music for me is a path toward deeper understanding. Oh, that's 7 minutes. A path toward deeper understanding, relationship, and action. And my music, I feel like it's connecting me to other people. It's connecting me to my past, to my history, to people in this congregation, in the choir. But beyond that, it's reaching out, and other choirs that perform it, it's connecting them to each other, but connecting them to my mother's legacy, and we'll connect into the future. So, and the last thing I'll say, I didn't know this was going to be stewardship before this, but I'll say, I'm transitioning into a retirement phase. So we're looking much more at, well, how much money do we have? And my wife occasionally looks at that item that says donation to UU Church. And she says, do we need to keep doing this? And for this reason, hopefully it's really clear why, from what I've said, that yes, it's important, and I get way more out of this than I put in. So thank you for letting me share my story.